Odds to make the college football playoffs has been released, and there's some of these that are extremely intriguing to me. We'll start off with our very own Georgia Bulldogs, minus 600 to make it, plus 400 not to make it. To me, minus 600 is just a solid investment. Like, I know a lot of people don't want to put 600, and if you're betting on an actual app where you have to put the money in, but if you're betting illegally, I don't know if I can say that, but if you're betting with a bookie and you don't have to put the money in, it's almost just kind of like an investment. Like, I'm telling you, like, Georgia's making the college football playoff, and that's better than 10%. You're gonna beat the market with that bet. I mean, to be honest,
even without returning Carson Beck, and it's the fact that it's a 12-team playoff. That's why the odds are so crazy. And 12 teams. I mean, there's a reality where 4 SEC teams get in. Honestly, likely.
I think that's likely. I would say there's a reality where 5 get in.
And Georgia is by far and away the best SEC team, in my opinion. They're returning the best quarterback, and they're returning the most talent. And we're going to talk about the next team with the best odds, and they're close to Georgia to a certain extent, and I don't understand why.
This is my favorite bet, actually, the next team on this list, which is Texas. And I've said I just do not believe in Texas defense. I also think coming to the SEC is going to be a rude awakening. I know they beat Alabama, and everyone's like, oh, they're SEC, right? It's a different thing when you're doing it week in and week out. Like, you don't get a break and play 4-8 TCU or 1-12 Kansas. Now, I know Kansas was better last year, but there's levels to this. Like, you're 2-8 SEC team. Like, going to Arkansas is not an easy game. Like, you saw LSU, they had a pretty good team last year, went 9-3. And they could have beaten Ole Miss and really been in the conversation for, a top 6-7 team in the country. They played Arkansas last year at home. Arkansas was a terrible football team. They won by 3. Now, they probably should have played. It was probably one of their worst played games of the season, but still, like, there's no breaks. Like, you go into Arkansas on a random September, mushed in between Oklahoma and Georgia. That's not a freebie. That's not a gimme. It's every single week. I think it's a rude awakening. I think that takes getting adjusted to. Now, if they go out there and dominate, it wouldn't totally shock me. But at minus 250 and plus 190 not to make the playoffs, I will say they have a pretty favorable schedule.
That's
but like
the only thing that is
their
working
defense
in their favor.
Their defense is bad.
The only thing working in their favor is, like, Oklahoma got absolutely shafted on their schedule, and it feels like Texas got the complete opposite treatment, where they got a pretty favorable schedule, but that draw still isn't necessary. Like, it matters in circumstances. Like, yeah, if you got a favorable schedule in any other conference, it would be awesome. But like you said, the point remains, this is not, the Big 12. And I get Sark is very familiar with the SEC, but this is a different beast. And they don't say, it just means more down here for no reason. It absolutely does. And it's not just to the fans. It's to the programs. It's to the water boys. It's to the ADs. It's to everybody who touches the program. And you're going to feel it on a random Saturday, to your point, in October. And I don't know if they play Kentucky, but like Kentucky and these middling SEC programs, they're not some easy, forget about it.
Well, and you're their Super Bowl.
And I also just don't think Texas is like, I'm outspoken. I don't think Quinn Ewers is that guy. I think he gets supplanted as a starter, and depending on how Sark handles that potential transition is really going to define their season. And you mentioned it, their defense, which was very bad last year, they've got to replace 2 of the best defenders in the country, and T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is Texas is going to be a lot of these teams' Super Bowls. I mean, every team is going to get up and play Texas. Like, you have that brand. Even when Texas isn't good, that's a big matchup. Now Texas is good. They're going to be highly ranked. You are every single team.
Coming off a college football playoff.
I mean, think about
you got to beat your own expectations. Now, your fans are expecting another college playoff berth.
Think about Arkansas a couple years ago when they went into Arkansas and how big of a win that was for Arkansas. That's going to be every single week for that team coming into this conference. So I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk. I mean, I would say if the odds were even, I would probably say, okay, I'll take Texas. But at minus 250, that's a bet I'm staying away from probably. But if I had to bet it, I'd say no. Ole Miss minus 130 plus 100 for no.
I think that's about right.
I think that's properly,
because they have to go into Athens, and they're going to get, or no, they host Georgia, and that's going to be, I think most people consider that one a loss. But outside of that, they'll have LSU. I think Ole Miss is really going to be a very good football team this year, but I think it's going to be one of those Ole Miss years where they do the same thing every year, where they win, a very good season, and then they just come up short. They'll make the postseason, or they'll make the college football playoff, and then they'll get bounced.
Yeah, I mean, I think
That's
they
a typical
I
Ole
think
Miss
they
season.
should make the college football playoff. I think that game at LSU could determine a lot because they're next up on this list.
Yeah.
They're minus 110 yes, minus 120 no. I
That's
mean,
exactly where I would put them.
as an LSU fan, I think, yeah, it's probably a coin flip. Like, they're either going to play defense and they're going to be good enough to make the college football playoff, or their defense is going to be as bad as last year and they're not going to make it. So you're betting on the development and the coaches, really. You're not even really betting on the talent because, frankly, I don't love the talent on that defense. I don't think they got good enough talent-wise to be better. So you're betting a lot on the coaches and development. So I truthfully don't know. I would probably lean towards no there, even though I'm a fan. I would love to see him in it. But
yeah, obviously we'd love to see him in it. And I think, it's not just about the defense, in my opinion, because even if the defense gets a little bit better, that offense last year was so historically good that the offense is going to have to take, not that big of a step back. Nobody's expecting Nuss to go out and do what Jaden Daniels did in terms of her production points per game standpoint. We're all high, us and those people in the boot. We're all high on Nuss. And Kyron Lacey, I guarantee you he's going to be in the Biletnikoff, two of the best tackle duo with Will Campbell and Emory Jones. So it's not like the offense is going to be absolutely terrible, but the offense was so great last year that not only does the defense have to step up, the offense can't take a massive step back. And I'm not expecting that, but I wouldn't just, assume the offense is going to be hit the ground running.
So well, I mean, you're replacing Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas, three
first-round
elite
picks,
weapons, 3 first-round picks, Heisman Trophy winner, and maybe the best wide receiver in all of college football. We're going to things get really interesting. We're going to talk about it after the break. The Alabama Crimson Tide have the 5th best odds. That's crazy.